Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks going on the road in the month of November to Iowa City, Iowa, Kinnick Stadium, and playing the Iowa Hawkeyes. This is the definition of one of those wonky November Big Ten football games. And I'm gonna put my hand up right off the bat and say this: I was out on Iowa after what I saw week 2 against Iowa State. Just didn't think this team was going to be a team that could push a team like Oregon in the month of November. I'm changing my tune. Iowa has looked really good in the month of October. And look, anytime you play defense like Iowa plays it, you're going to have a chance to win these kind of football games. And I think the question right off the bat that I think the Oregon fans are most excited about is, what's the version of Dante Moore that we get? What's the version of the Will Stein offense that we get? Because Oregon on offense, like Jekyll and Hyde a little bit. Like we've seen Oregon play offense like they're one of the best offenses in the country. We've also seen Oregon look really out of sorts at time. What version of Oregon do we get on the road playing this Iowa defense? Because I'll say this right off the bat. If Oregon comes out and looks out of sorts, not only are you going to struggle to score points against Iowa, you run a very high risk of giving Iowa points as well, because you won't see many more opportunistic defenses that you see in the country. When Iowa has a chance to create a turnover and go impact the game on the defensive side of the football, more times than not, they've been doing it. That's why they've had so much success under Kirk Ferentz over all these years. This is the game to me. It's probably the game of the weekend. Very excited to get into it. Before we do, and as always, Oregon fans, Iowa fans, y'all let it fly in the comment section, man. I can't tell you how much fun I've had with these kind of preview prediction episodes. The amount of support's been amazing. Couldn't really do it without you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. And I think the real conversation here is diving into this Oregon offense versus an Iowa defense that I'll just go by the numbers here. Only giving up 14 points per game, that's fifth best in the country. Only giving up 3.9 yards per play, that's second best in the country. Only giving up 2.7 yards per carry, that's eighth best in the country. And only giving up 5.7 yards per pass attempt, top 7 in the country. I mean, everywhere you look, Iowa is grading out very, very well. They were one of the few teams on defense that gave Indiana some struggles on the offensive side of the football. Now, what can Oregon do in this football game to have some success? Because I don't mean to underwrite how good this Oregon offense has been. We've seen them look not so good at times, but when you look at the season in general, 38.7 points per game, that's sixth best in the country, 7.2 yards per play, that's number 3 in the country. This is one of the best offenses in the country, going on the road and playing one of the best defenses in the country. It's what fires me up about this game the most. Now, here's the story. This is what has me so excited about Oregon. I've been very vocal. I think this Oregon team is a lot more dangerous than a lot of people appreciate, and it starts with their ability to go on the road, run the football against this kind of team. There are not a lot of teams that we're going to preview playing Iowa. Say, hey, go on the road and run the football against them, because not a lot of teams can. Oregon can. You know, as much as people want to talk about Dante Moore and true freshman Decorian Moore, I'm looking at this Oregon offense. The thing that has me the most fired up about is that this is one of, if not the best, run blocking offensive lines that you see in the country. They have a deep stable of running backs, all of which can impact the game in a high way. They're averaging 6.3 yards per carry, number 2 in the country. This has been one of the best rushing attacks we see across the country. Can you go on the road and run the football against Iowa? Because you know, we kind of started this episode off with, hey, what version of Dante Moore are we going to get? Normally when you see Dante Moore playing his best football, he's working off the run game. When I look at Dante Moore, hey, Dante Moore off of play action, 10.2 yards per pass attempt, a 75% completion percentage. When Dante Moore has a run game to work off, this kid's been freaking elite in 2025. Well, can Oregon go on the road and run the football against Iowa? That's probably the biggest question that we have to pose. And I'll say this is something that I think there's a lot of casual fans out there that say, "Oh, Oregon versus Iowa, you give Oregon the edge in terms of speed on the outside, you give Iowa the edge along the lines of scrimmage." I'm not sure if I'm willing to concede that. In fact, I don't think I would concede that. In fact, I would say that I trust this Oregon offensive line a little bit more than I trust the Iowa defensive line. Now, here's the thing that excites me or should excite the Oregon fans the most. This is an Iowa defensive line that's really, really good. They're really, really active, but they're a little bit undersized. Go look at that 3D for Iowa on the defensive line. There are not many, if anybody's, that are playing over 300 pounds. Well, you got Emmanuel Pregnon. You got a guy like Poncho on the inside. That is a really, really dynamic and powerful interior offensive line. Can Oregon just run some duo, some power concepts, and move Iowa off the line of scrimmage and get the run game going that way? The frustrating part about it is that that was what I thought cost Oregon when they played Indiana. I felt like they had some of that inside run game concepts working. I didn't think Will Stein stuck with it enough. If I'm Will Stein in this football game with a young quarterback in Dante Moore, I want to give him that run game. And I think Oregon has the opportunity to be a little bit more big, a little bit more physical than Iowa has on the defensive line. Can they stick to it for 4 quarters? It's a storyline you have in this football game. Now, the other thing is, do you have, and because I will say this, when you're having the conversation of, oh, how is Oregon going to attack Iowa? It's not an easy conversation to have. Iowa's so good at all three levels. They're really good stopping the run. They're really good not giving up the big play in the back end. This is when you rely on your best players. And this is an advantage that Oregon has in this football game. List me the 10 best players that will be on the football field in this game. 7, 8, 9 of them are probably wearing an Oregon Duck uniform. And again, that's not a shot at this Iowa team, but the NFL draft will probably bear this out. Oregon's going to have a lot more NFL draft picks, a lot more high-end talent on the football field than Iowa. Can you rely on one, your quarterback, Dante Moore? Can you rely on a guy like DeCorian Moore? Can you rely on a guy like Kenyon Sadiq and say, hey, I don't know if we're going to be moving the ball every single drive, but can we rely on our best football players to make big time plays that can allow us to win this football game? That's the other thing I'm looking at. Now, you flip the sides, and this is a heavy advantage for Oregon. Right. And here's the thing. We talked about Iowa's defense. How about Oregon's defense? 13.6 points per game allowed. That's fourth best in the country. 3.9 yards per play. That's second best. I mean, you look at Oregon and say points per game, yards per play, their defense grading out very similarly to what we see from Iowa's defense. Ain't nobody talking enough about how solid this Oregon defense has been. You look at Iowa on offense and say feels one dimensional. Iowa has struggled to throw the football all year. 5.9 yards per pass attempt. That's 128th in the country. Oregon has the best secondary in the country. They're only giving up 4.8 yards per pass attempt. That's number one in the country. Heavy advantage for Oregon's boundary cornerbacks going up against these Iowa wide receivers. Iowa wants to run the football. What I think this allows Oregon to do is say, hey, Brandon Finney on one side, Ifio on the other side. We have confidence that you guys can kind of play some man coverage on islands. We think we have good enough cornerbacks to deal with your wide receivers and some one-on-one coverage, which is going to allow us to drop our safeties into the box. Oregon's got a couple of safeties that are really good fit in the run, man. Dylan Tiemann obviously being one, but I think Aaron Flowers has done a great job of it as well. This is when it hurts to be one-dimensional. I think Oregon can take away this Iowa passing attack. Now, Iowa doesn't have a ton of passing attack juice, period. Now they're going up against one of the best secondaries in the country. They're going to allocate a lot of bodies to the box to stop the run. If Oregon just gives them a heavy box and say, hey, we're going to force you to run the football into 7, 8-man boxes, how well can Iowa run the football? Is probably the question that you have. And I think the athleticism that Oregon has on that defensive line, Amari Washington, Bear Alexander, Iowa likes to run a lot of outside zone stuff. They like to get their opposing defensive lines moving laterally. Well, with the athleticism that I believe Oregon has. With also two edge defenders, and we talk about Mateo and Tatum as pass rushes. We don't talk enough about what they do against the run. With two really good edge defenders in the run game, I struggle to see Iowa moving the football a ton, running the football. That gets us into the pick here. To me, am I running to the betting window to take Oregon to cover 5.5 points? No, probably not, because I've been a Big Ten fan my whole life. I'm a Michigan guy. I know how hard it is to go on the road to Kinnick Stadium, especially in the month of November, and comfortably win a football game. But if you're asking me who I think is going to win this game, I'm going with Oregon, and I'm going to go Oregon to cover this number because this game feels like a game where you are going to rely on your best players to come up with a few game-changing plays. And I look at Oregon and say, I think they have the best players on the football field here. And I think that gives them the edge. And I don't trust Iowa to get a ton going on offense. I trust Oregon as long as Dante Moore does not turn over the football. I trust Oregon to find a few plays, whether it's Kenyon Sadiq, whether it's DeCorian Moore, whether it's Malik Benson, whether it's Dyer Hill, Jordan Davison, Noah Whittington. I trust those guys that are future NFL dudes to come up with a few plays, to put enough points on the board, to win this game, to cover the number as well. This is Oregon, when they lost to Indiana, they had a few rebound games, Rutgers, Wisconsin, teams that we kind of knew Oregon would win handily. This is kind of the test. In my opinion, this is a different quality of a team, and you're going on the road to play them. Where's Oregon at? What's that competitive character look like? Cannot tell you how. I don't think people are going to talk enough about this game. This is the game of the week. Fired up to watch it. We'll talk about it Saturday afternoon. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.